Hello people, hello people. So I just wanted to talk about a word, to just talk, about tax season. Not only tax season, your value, your standards, sticking to them. Because I say this because there's a lot of women and men, or let's just say there's a lot of us people who or a lot of people in the world, whether male or female gender, who are a little insecure about themselves or maybe have not healed through their childhood traumas and overcompensate in different ways to have companionship or move too fast in relationships or in my experience overgive to compensate for whatever childhood wounds or whatever your however your experiences affected you. Um, so I've also known people and I've have experienced people who will prey on that. Prey prey on that. On those qualities or those insecurities, will be there for you in a time of need and manipulate their ways into your heart, knowing that maybe you're seeking companionship or you're seeking love or you're seeking something because maybe they lack in the areas that you do not. So the it's like the wolf in sheep clothing, or um like in Africa, the circle of life, you know, certain animals or being and animals, how to put this, certain animals will be grazing, deer grazing, buffalo grazing, and here come the lion to devour because they have a resource or a source of meat. They've been grazing, they've waited for them to get fat, or they need to get a meal. So when they're surviving and when they're living in survival of the fittest, they seek out their prey. They watch them ahead of time and they wait for a moment to attack. So the same type of tendencies, or when they're functioning survival of the fittest, those tendencies tend to, there are people with the same tendencies in lifestyle where they're struggling for their needs. I've talked about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're struggling for survival for whatever reason, um, that they cannot get ahead in life in certain areas because maybe the decisions they've made in the past, or, not being at the right place, or not being too lazy to put into work themselves. They'll prey on other people, or like when I was using the metaphor as far as the animals, prey on other animals, weaker animals in certain areas, because those other animals that are grazing are vulnerable enough to go out and get their meal, yet the other animals that are not grazing are on the low hiding because there was a bigger animal on the line of the food chain that will devour them if they're out in the open and be vulnerable. So they'd rather not be vulnerable. So use that metaphor as far as humans. I've dealt with that and I saw it my entire life. Sadly, some of my family in the generation past was like that, where they would prey on other people for survival of the fittest because maybe they didn't make the best decisions and they were put in a position where it was too hard for them to go out and get their meal themselves. And I'm just using this as a metaphor. I'm sure there are people out there that will understand. Although I saw it, I expected a lot of people to be just like me as far as not using others to get to where they need. There are people out there that will step on others to get what they want or get their needs met. So those people that are vibing on that low vibe like that will prey on others who are strength, who have a strength as far as, I'm using the word resource, but other individuals who have been vulnerable and put in the work to and made good decisions to get ahead in life as far as finances, as far as their fruits, as far as their assets. There are others that have made poor decisions and not in a situation where they they feel like it's too much work to put into to dig themselves out of a hole financially or whatever, whatever the situation is. So they rather find it easier to prey on other people, manipulate them, okay, through their wants, study them to find out their wants and their needs, or their wants because they already have their needs met. So they're like, okay, how can I fit in this person's life where I can manipulate and lead them to believe that I will offer them what they are needing. So as far as like the vulnerable deer is the insecure person who maybe has all finances and has a foundation to stand on, yet is missing companionship and love. So here comes the lion to prey on the deer. And of course, the deer, that metaphor as far as love, in human form, the deer is not going to seek a lion out for love. They stick with their own kind. And there are some human beings that do stick to their own kind. So, a person like me who didn't stick to her own kind and feel like we're all one race, we're all one, all animals are all the same. And all mammals are all the same, no matter your color, your creed, your ethnicity, we are all the same. Person like me who wouldn't stick to my own kind probably tries to, and I'm only speaking for myself, I will try to look beyond someone's creed, color, and see their soul and see their strengths, their weaknesses, because I know everybody's on a different part of walk of life, but I wasn't being extra mindful and cautious because I became the deer that was hunted to and watched to be able to so that the person outside of my race or outside of my thought process or idealisms or beliefs and values preyed upon me to be able to fit in somehow, and benefit from my resources or my assets. So I'm trying to figure out that why it happened to me and stuff like that. But I know God will only allow things to happen so that we learn our lessons. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that I'm not too all over the place with this and y'all understand. But I have family members who were like that. So I knew better than to not be cautious of all people. But yeah, I was walking, I'm since 2017 or since 2011, I've been walking, 2009, I've been walking on a spiritual journey. So I have faith and I believe in people and I have hope for our humans that not everyone is out there looking to benefit from you, looking to gather your assets, looking to see where they fit in. But yet I had to learn the hard way that you got to stay woke to that kind of stuff. You have to be aware of there are some people out there. I called it the incarceration hustle. My uncles taught me the incarceration hustle, where you seek out pen pals and you have the gift of gab, so you tell them everything they need to hear. Because you're not setting your standard high enough to not seek pen pals out in there. But there are good people who will, still communicate with people that are in a low vibe, or in a situation where they don't have all their needs met, because there are people who play savior, and there's different, in psychology they explain it all. There's different roles for different people, and people like to help. I'm one of those. But I wasn't aware. I was aware, but I didn't want to look at that individual like that. I didn't want to look at that individual that it was a possibility that that person could be doing this to me. So I always look beyond the red flags. Pay attention to the red flags, y'all. It's there. God is teaching y'all. But you live and you learn and you grow from it, But my own uncles, incarceration hustles, then you start hearing, oh, send me some commissary money, I need this and that. And then they follow it with a baby, with a little peeve names, you know what I mean? The little pet peeve names, things that you want to hear. So just know that people are out there like that. And for my sisters and all my women, even the men that work hard for theirs, I understand that you're looking for love, but God will send an appropriate one for you. They're not gonna ask of you too much if they're not giving that much. I get so upset, and I've talked about it on my channel, previously this week. I get so upset when people try to prey on those that are kind-hearted. We like to help, but I can only speak for myself. I like to help when I offer, not when I'm asked of You know, when people ask me to do something for them, I kind of get irritated, you know. But then I'll think back and be like, okay, what would Jesus do in this situation? What would God do? But, you know, I've been used. I've been taken advantage of. My kindness has been taken advantage. People have taken me for granted far too many times. And I still continue to love and be open. So I'm letting y'all know, like, it's tax season. I've heard with the last person I allowed into my circle and allowed into my life, I've heard one of his people, okay, oh, son, you can apply for this job. You know, I got my life together. I don't have to rely on a shorty for her tax no more. And I'm listening to this and I heard it and I'm like, okay, so homie thinking, this man is thinking because I'm stacked a certain way or that I'm insecure. So this man is walking with an insecure woman. So maybe he's around her for tax money or around her for financial resources. There are many women and men out there, for whatever reason, are too lazy or in a position where they can't get it for themselves or choose not to get it for themselves. Be aware of that. They will tell you exactly what you want to hear. They will lead you on and play victim, okay? And although there are some facts that shows that they are victimized or they probably don't have the resources that you may have, and they don't have, you know, the finances to provide, they will act as if they have less just for you to offer up. And then they turn around and tell you, oh, I didn't ask you for anything. I never asked her for anything, but you know you was kind-hearted and you know I was kind-hearted and you kept stating a need because you knew I would be nice enough to try to assist you in that sense. And then most of the time when I tried to assist, if I was offering, I didn't expect nothing in return. There were times when this person asked, and you know, not only this person that I'm talking about, but this or referring back to, because I'm not talking about I'm referring back to that experience. Although there were times that he didn't ask for things, there were times he did, and he would promise that he'd pay me back. TikTok, I'm still waiting to be paid back, or anybody else would still be waiting. Let me rephrase that. I'm not waiting. I knew from the very beginning, every time he asked for something, he was not going to pay me back. So I just made sure that I work harder to make sure that I provided and not expected it in return, you know. Although I had hoped that this person I did it because although I knew it was a possibility I was being used, especially when you see that same pattern over and over again, you know, and the same, you know, when your person's ends when the person's ends run out, they're seeking you out. But when they doing good and they have ends, you don't hear from them. You know what I mean? Even though I knew that it was a possibility, a strong possibility, I tested the person. You know, I was being tested in certain areas, so I tested the person too because I knew what he was doing. But I also prepared myself where I wouldn't lack, and I just take the loss, you know. And at the end of the day, it wasn't a loss because I was willingly giving, you know. So just be mindful. If y'all don't have it, don't overstretch yourself. You know, don't over sacrifice for people. Make sure people match what you're bringing to the table, you know, so you don't feel used, you know. And I know that God sees all. So, you know, this person is, when people do that intentionally to use others and manipulate and lead them on, God sees it, and they're going to have to pay their karma, because when they're finally trying to get their life together and do better, someone's going to come along and treat them just the way they treated you, you know. Then they got to deal with the healing process and the heartache and the betrayal, the feelings of betrayal and feeling that you were manipulated, you know. And then the whole crazy part about it is that you really thought, you know, this, I'm only speaking for myself, you really thought that I was idiotic enough, all right, or immature enough not to see what you were doing, but just to allow you to proceed with it, just to test you and hope that you were a better person than maybe my suspicions. I allowed it to happen. Hence with the saying that people do only what you allow them to do, because I allowed that. I could have nipped it in the bud. I could have belittled the person just like everybody else would. You're a grown man or you're a grown woman. You should be able to go get it like I can, you know? Um, without stepping on other people, without trying to use someone else as a resource or an asset, or prey on them to see what their assets are. And if they're abundant in that area, um, then they should be able to share. Well, if they're not paying their tithes and offerings, let me manipulate them. That's not you don't sit that high. That's not your job to do. God will deal with those people who are not doing tithes and offerings and missions and things like that. If that's what he really wants for them, but it's not your place to manipulate people, to prey on people so that their resources befriend them, so their resources become yours in some way, shape, or form after the manipulation. And it's just an insult, offense to think that someone is blind to it or idiotic enough not to see it. So I just want to shed some light on that, because there are women out there who do it too. There are women who say, well, I know this male is after the flesh, and I'm gonna just put it that way because I don't want to get really raunchy with it. I'm already speaking in Ebonics half the time to break it down for people, and for myself, because I'm street smart and book smart. But there are women who know the power of the flesh, of the female flesh, and manipulate men because they know they get lonely. They use that word. That's the word they use. They get lonely for the H word, and there are others that prey on your energy. When you have good energy and you're a good person, want to be around you because you uplift them. But once they're fine, you don't hear from them either. Gotta handle those people. But there are women who prey on their own assets or use their own assets of the flesh or of their own resources. Like if a woman knows she has a home and she knows a man needs a meal, they'll cook for them. We do a man's hearts through their stomach, ain't it? And other ways, of course. But they'll utilize those things, knowing that they have no good intent except to benefit from their finances. So they'll prey on men who they think have the finances or have it put together because they dress right, they look right, they drive in a nice whip, they have a rental, and because they preying on, to watching people to prey on what they have, they would utilize their own assets and put themselves out there to offer that up, the flesh, the resource, the asset that they have, in exchange for monetary gifts. And then the other person is thinking, oh, this person is looking out for my best interest. Oh, this woman is taking care of me. And at the same time, she's benefiting from you. So it goes vice versa. There are males and females out there not functioning in their high vibration, where they're ethical and using their moral to associate with other people, to interact and connect with other people without trying to use other people for their assets, their energy, their resources. So just know there are people out there. Just know that be careful how you flash. Be careful how you walk. There are a lot of times where I have an abundance of clothing and stuff like that, and I will wear the same thing over and over. Let me not put all my secrets out there. I don't like the attention of men. I don't crave flesh, but I've had people manipulate me in those areas, and lead me on to believe that they cared and they had good intentions when their actions didn't match what their gifted gab was saying. So understand that there are people out there, but there are also, on the other hand, good people as me, or good men who are not out there, who have their things together and really are just looking for that substance, that real stuff. When someone has your best intentions, they're not going to ask for material gains. They're going to ask for things of substance. Or they're not even going to ask. You're going to give it naturally. Things are going to flow. And it's about substance. Can you communicate well? If you can't communicate well, are you open enough to try, to show an effort to be able to add to the conversation. Not just conversation. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you pulling your own weight? You know, can you provide those things for yourself, your needs at least? And then maybe when you connect with someone, you are helping each other do something fun for your wants, you know, together as a unit, as one, half and half, Dutch, going Dutch on it, 50-50, you know, that's what we call it, going Dutch. Where someone's not giving too much. One person's giving too much, the other person's giving less. It has to be an equal give and take in order for it to be healthy. Most people don't know about healthy relationships. Trust me, I was one. So be mindful of those people who prey on others. Be mindful that they soul and they talk matches their walk. Their fruits match their efforts. Make sure someone's giving a conscious effort to you so that you know you're not being used or taken advantage of. Love yourself enough to set a standard that you don't have to be lonely. You don't have to pay for companionship. And when it feels like that, know you're being used. Know you're being taken advantage of. Love yourselves enough that you treat others how you want to be treated. You give of yourself. And pick those people wisely how you want, the ones that you choose to give back to you. Don't give what you're not willing to receive, you know? So I think that's what I wanted to say for the moment, because it was in my heart and I needed to discuss and get it off my chest, you know? Say it with your chest. Say it with your chest. So, yes, love one another. And it's okay, but don't allow yourself to be used. You know, be there for people without feeling like you're doing too much